Welcome back to Laurie's Stories, another episode. I am your host, Laurie, and I have my co-host, Luanne, with me today.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, welcome back. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share because that helps us reach more people when you do that. Mm-hmm. So today, we have a fun topic that we're going to be talking about, and it's about... how do you know what you're called to do? And this question actually came from one of our viewers, who is also my niece, Katie Rose. And I will give a shout out to her later in the podcast. But for now, that's what we're going to be talking about. And Luanne, so where have you been? What have you been doing?
I have been channeling my inner grandma, I think. It's actually funny. Somebody at the gym this last week was like, so what's new? Like, what's new in life? And I was like, literally nothing. I was like, I have nothing to say. Because I don't know. I feel like I've just been staying at home with Lila. It's been kind of bad weather. So we just stay at home and go to the gym. I guess Lila started swim lessons, which is super fun. Just another thing to do. And then I got your sewing machine a couple months ago. So I decided to start doing something with it. So I've been sewing. I made a couple pants and shorts, and I'm working on my second dress for Lila right now. And I have somebody that's kind of teaching me. She comes over a couple times a week during nap time and shows me how to do some stuff. So that's new and fun. But yeah, just very, not boring, just slow.
Yeah, slow, which the winter months are supposed to be, right? They're supposed to be slower and more chill and more relaxed. I mean, hopefully we've
been very chill at our house.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yet, I mean, I just love that you've picked up sewing. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Going back to some of your roots and picking that up just makes me so happy.
Thanks. That's fun.
You learned a little bit about sewing in school, right?
Yeah, I think we did like a month-long class, but like the first 2 weeks it was just how to sew a straight line. Yeah. And then we made a pillowcase, and that's really simple. So
because I didn't teach you any of that, so I am just super grateful that you're picking that up, and she's good at it. She's like good at it. You should see the banner she made, a happy birthday banner. It's like something you would buy off of Etsy somewhere. In fact, I think you should start your own Etsy shop eventually, maybe. But
we'll see.
Probably down the road, right?
When
you're done having
I just
babies.
need I want to just get like a space to put it all in one space. So right now it's just like in the kitchen, on the table, and the island. And like I have to be so careful if I drop a pin or something. I have to and then I have to pick it all up and then tear it all down and set it all back up. And so we just actually, right before we came over today, we went and picked up a desk so that I can just have that as my sewing desk. And then I also need to get like another big table for like cutting. And I don't think Trent understands what he got himself into yet, but over time it'll come together. And so I'm excited. We'll see.
I think it's such an amazing little hobby for you because you're the type of person that you have one child, and it comes so natural to you, and you make it look so easy that it's barely enough to keep you like busy all the time.
Yeah,
right?
No, I feel like the first year rocked my world. The first year, I was like, oh my gosh.
But now that she's independent,
now she's finally starting to she'll just go and play in her room for a bit, and I don't really sew when she's awake though, because she likes to come tip at me, and it's just not something you can do with her. My mic, hello, my mic.
Is your mic not on?
Oh, my mic's on. Okay, I was looking at yours. Okay. I don't really sew when she's awake yet, though, just because it is like needles and scissors and stuff. But she is starting to get to the age where she will just be more independent, and I feel like I can have hobbies again and do these things. And so I've been I feel like I've got a lot more hobbies lately, and doing my own thing again. Yeah. And she's
I love that.
Easy, so.
I love that so much. I think it's so good when you can do that with being a stay-at-home mom. It kind of keeps you from, I don't know, getting bored, I guess.
Yeah,
you know,
especially in
not that you get
Wisconsin.
bored, but with just doing the same thing day in and day
Well,
out.
just in the winter, being inside every
Cooped up.
day, it's
Being cooped up
Yeah.
is the worst of things. So yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What's new?
I've just been over here trying to get March is usually kind of when I like to kind of go through my house and clean the things that are needed and clean out some closets and some cupboards. And I talked about that, on the last month's podcast. It's something I did not used to enjoy. But I think the more I'm learning that everything has such a spiritual parallel, and I think about that, and I've learned to somewhat enjoy it. Like, it's so fun to get rid of things that you don't need anymore. And
it's fun after the fact.
Yes, it's such a good feeling.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of that and making preparations to travel.
Oh, yes. Where are you
I
going?
have 3 upcoming trips, actually.
3?
Yes. So April, we're going to Erie, Pennsylvania for our first Simple Faith fundraiser for this season.
Cool.
And then Ernest and I are going to Gatlinburg, Tennessee with a group of people. That's a business retreat. And then in May, I'm going back to Africa. So a lot of paperwork and things that went into that.
Yeah.
But it is done. It is done. The tickets are purchased. There's no turning back.
Yeah.
And you want to come with me again?
No.
2017, you went with me.
Really? Was that, I was that
2017
old?
or 2008?
I
You were
was
16. So what year would it have been?
2016.
So 2000, because you were 16.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so 2016, Luanne and her twin sister Lorinda went with me.
Was
that
fun.
was the trip of a lifetime.
Yeah.
So, and then the following time, a year later, Ernest went with me. So now this is the first time that I'm going all by myself. I mean, not
Are
by
you
myself. I'm
meeting
going with
people,
a team.
Like, do you meet them in the airport and then like fly
Yes,
with what
yes.
airport do you meet them in?
Atlanta again.
No, New York. Or do you go to Atlanta?
This time it's Atlanta to
Okay.
Joburg.
It was
Yeah.
New York for us.
It would have saved me a chunk of money if I would have been willing to fly to London and have an 8-hour layover
don't
there
do
by
that.
myself.
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh my goodness, I've learned to navigate airports pretty well, but to get there 8 hours ahead of my next flight,
Yeah.
the gates probably, I just didn't want to do that. So I'm flying to Atlanta, flying with the team to
Okay,
Joburg,
cool.
and from there to Pemba.
That's good.
So,
That'll be
so
fine then.
that's what's coming up here.
Awesome.
So-
and what about, well, I guess it's not a trip, but in June, you're having a fundraiser
We are having
here.
our big fundraiser here. Yes.
I'm excited for that.
Yes. The Colorado fundraiser is not happening this year, but you are all invited to ours right here on our property, June 27. It's a Friday night, and there's fun for everybody. There's something for everybody. So just put it on your calendar and be here.
It's the Simple Faith
Simple Faith fundraiser, and everything that comes in goes for Wells in Africa. For this particular one, though, we keep 10% for the local community that is in need. So,
Yeah, it's fun.
yeah, it's a good time. So, all right, we are going to dive in and talk about how do you know what you are called to do. And so, over the time that we've been doing these podcasts, people have sent in questions or asked questions, and we are going to take those one by one. I kind of like to do those when Luanne's with me because you get a broader view. So again, a shout out to my niece, Katie Rose. And she's the one who asked this question. She has been on this journey herself. And she has just started her own podcast. On YouTube, it's called Wild and Worthy. So be sure to go and check her out. She's very interesting. She has a very amazing topic that is kind of her storyline of what she's learning in her life. So you don't want to miss it. Okay, Luanne, so maybe we'll start with just talking about some of the different things we've done in our lives.
Sure.
Do you want to go first? Like, what are some of the things that you have done from, maybe think back to like the first job you had?
Sure.
Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, but it doesn't align with me.
Okay.
McDonald's was my first
Oh my
job.
gosh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I worked a couple like convenience store jobs just during high school
Yeah.
because
Just because you needed
there was
money, though.
Yeah, I needed money, and there was nothing
Yeah.
else, I could really do around in our small town. But as a kid, I always wanted to babysit and like hold all the other babies at church, and because we would go to like Amish church still kind of, and so you would get there and then you would be there all day because then you eat lunch afterwards, and then the families would like be together all day, so it was like an all day thing, and there's tons of babies, and so I would just like adopt one, and the parents would just come find me at some point later in the evening to be like, oh, where's my baby? I'm like, oh, I gave him to so and so, or oh, I still have them. And so it was always the babies, and then in high school it was just whatever job I could find, and then in college I think I still babysat and stuff, but I wasn't gonna go to college because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I asked my guidance counselor, because she was like, what's your plan? And I was like, I don't know. I just, I don't really have one. I just want to like help people, but I don't really know how. And she was like, well, you should go for social work. And I was like, I didn't even know what that was, So I went to school for social work, or I went to Western Tech though. So technically it's called Human Services, which is a great program. Yeah. And then I worked at a group home for special needs people. I worked at 2 different schools for special needs kids, and I interned at an adoption agency, like all during this time in college, and it was all like centered around kids or like behavioral specialties, and I loved that. But I also realized I don't like working. It's like not in like a lazy way. I was just like, I'm not passionate about any of these things. I don't think I'll ever be like, I think I would love to be an adoption social worker, but I don't think I'd ever be passionate about it, so.
You would have loved the aspect of that job because you would have helped children being placed in good homes or adoption, right? So,
I think I could like appreciate any of those jobs. But for me, long term, I was always like, this is just not like what I want. And so eventually I like quit everything, and because I wanted to have kids, but we had just gotten married in like 2020, and we weren't quite ready to start having kids, and so I was like, well, if I can't have kids yet, I'm just gonna go work with kids. So I quit my like high-paying job and went and worked at a daycare for like $11 an hour, 11 or 12, and I just worked at a daycare, which thankfully Trent let me do that. He was like, whatever makes you happy. So then I went and I was the lead teacher at a daycare by choice. Like I just would rather have done that, and hung out with those little 2-year-olds for 2 or a year and a half until I had my own kid, and then now I just stay home with her, and I'm like, yeah, this is 100%
what you want,
where I want it to be.
I just love that, because you might not be able to see it, but I can see like there was a theme there of where you chose over and over. It came back to children. It came back to like from the time you wanted to babysit when you were a young teenager. You wanted to babysit, and you did, and you were very good at it. And then the early child care, and even your college years was. I remember when you told me I might get to help children be placed into foster or not foster, adoption. And you were so excited about that aspect of it. And then I think 2020 had some to do with, that was hard. You were in college over that time, and COVID. So, but you have a degree in that. So if you ever need it, you have it.
Yeah.
So, but who knows? Who knows? Because I always say there's also life after children. So for me, so that was kind of the theme I saw in her life all along. She says she didn't want a job. I think it's because some of the jobs didn't align enough with what she was passionate about. She hadn't totally figured that out yet or known what she wanted to do, because you were also youth leader. You did some singing. You enjoyed those 2 things. You did, but that was working with older children, right? So
like middle school, high school.
Yeah, middle school, high school, and I know that was almost overwhelming for you sometimes. So you definitely had a niche with younger children and babies, and I think that's why you're such a fantastic mom. Thanks. To Lila.
Hopefully when she's a middle schooler, high schooler,
then there'll be a Luanne there in her life.
I don't know.
Yeah. So for me, and we're going to both talk about what we did, and then kind of how we found, how you find that. So for me, I started out being a stay-at-home mom. I never really had a job before I got married, because I got married at 20 years old and then
Me
had
too.
my first baby by the time I was 21.
Not me.
So I jumped right into marriage and being a full-time stay-at-home mom. We had 6 children in 10 years. So, but I can honestly say, other than being overwhelmed sometimes physically, and I'm sure mentally, and
Yeah.
my emotions were pretty safely all stuffed down, because we didn't,
Yeah.
back in those days, you didn't talk about your
Safely
emotions.
stuffed
They were
out.
safe. But other than that, I genuinely I loved being a stay-at-home mom. See, even though it was kind of the same, you did the same thing kind of over and over, I also thought there was such a diversity. Like,
Yeah.
one day you get to bake, and another day you do laundry, which I never did really enjoy that, but it was just
Yeah.
the diversity. And one day you got to go hang out maybe with other mom friends. And
Yeah.
I think the part of making your own schedule versus having an 8 to 5
Yeah.
job. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then after the children were all in school, I started venturing out a little bit and starting some different jobs. And I worked, I did different things. Like we had a girl in our home that again, special needs. You and I must be somewhat similar, because
Yeah.
you work with special needs. We had that special needs girl and just loved having her there. That was my first little job after I was done after my children were in school. And then went to like a little deli where I got to serve people food and interact with people a lot. We always hosted in our home a lot. What are some other things that I did? Cared for the elderly neighbors. Remember, we would do that. We'd go clean their house and bring them food,
Yeah.
and just because we wanted
Didn't you
to.
have a job like that too? Or you go to people's houses?
Yes, that was so those first 3 were out in Idaho.
Yeah.
Then we moved back here, and I got a job in home health care where
Yeah.
I would literally go to people's houses when you kids were all in school.
Yeah.
And I would take care of the elderly and sometimes clean for them or cook food for them or just whatever they needed help with. And I really enjoyed that. Worked at Subway, and then led a girls group and had a lot of coffee dates with people. I just had a lot of one-on-one coffee dates with people where people would just naturally tell me all their struggles
Yeah.
or like what they were dealing with. And I remember thinking one time, I wonder if I could do this professionally. I wonder if I could get paid to do this.
Yeah. And you're doing it all
But
the time.
it seemed like a dream at that point. And I just enjoyed it, because it was as refreshing for me, because I would take time away from my other jobs and go do that. But I mean, a lot of you know that today I am actually a counselor, so that led into becoming a counselor where I do get paid. I have my own office. But do you see the theme of when you start with something that comes naturally to you or that you genuinely enjoy, and sometimes it just grows into something so much bigger. So what I want to say is notice those things. What are you naturally good at? What do you enjoy doing? What are you passionate about? For Luanne, it was children. For me, it was people and interacting with people. And I heard it said this one time, or I read it, and I've never forgotten this because I think it's so true. When what you are naturally good at and what you are passionate about, when those two worlds collide, you've probably found your calling. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, I like that.
I think there's so much truth to that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened with me in all those different things I got to try, and you too. So then I finally I realized that, okay, the home health care, I had to quit because they would not let me stay home with my children during the summer, and there was no way I was going to be working and you guys would be home for the summer. So I quit. And so, but I was ready for something more challenging, and I had always had this dream of maybe, what if I could be a secretary somewhere? That would be fun. And I always thought maybe a church secretary. And well, then lo and behold, I started working at the high school where you kids were going at the time. Started in the kitchen, again, with food. I wanted to work with food and people. And from there, I don't know even how it came about that I started working in off and on in all 3 of the high school offices where they needed me, just kind of on call. And I absolutely loved that
fun.
so much.
That's fun. She'd do like the announcements like in the middle of the school day, and you hear, and that'd be my mom doing the announcements. So it was funny.
With my accent, right?
With your accent. And every once in a while you'd like stumble over what you're saying.
Goodness.
You'd like stop and then start again. It was hilarious.
And I was always so aware that my kids are listening and all their friends are listening. But good thing they all loved me.
Yeah, it was cute. Nobody was ever like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, those were some
funny.
really, I absolutely loved that. I was really sad when I decided, I had told myself when John graduates, I'm going to be done with that job. And I was kind of sad, but I was also ready to move into counseling and writing my book. And but again, the common theme there was people, interacting with people. I love to host. To this day, I just love to make a good meal and have people around my table. And I did that for years and years before I had an Airbnb. So now, again, I got to turn that into a business because the house that we lived in here prior to this one, we turned that into Airbnb. And now I get to host people. It's a business. If I want to, I take down some good baked goods or whatever, but that's not required. I don't have to. I don't nearly always have time to do that. But it's just, to me, looking back, it's such a theme that I see now. Do you see that, Lou?
I feel like you're a businesswoman now that you're telling me all these things.
Well,
I know that you've done all these things, but it's cute to see how your interests and then probably dad like help you like make it into like, well, but I think the Airbnb was kind of you and
I threw that out on Marketplace one.
like,
Dad wasn't 100% on board with that.
Yeah, that was kind of you.
So
I know your theme is like people and you're passionate about helping people and the communication part, but I think it's interesting to see like the business side that came out too.
Yeah, because I would have never considered myself a businesswoman. You know,
and me neither, but now hearing you say this, I'm like, wow.
I bet you could. I bet you could.
You are. I think it's just because I'm your daughter. Yeah. I just see you as mom, you know, but now listening to this, I'm like, wow, it's a little business lady.
Can I tell you a story?
Okay.
So because Laurie's stories, right? So we have to tell stories. You should come up with one too. But so and in some of those years, I was still longing, you know, I was just longing for something that I can just throw myself into and belong, just belong to it. You know how you and I both had like a heart for the homeless, right? We'd see one homeless person in Eau Claire and it would just make our day and we would go get him something. Now there's so many homeless in Eau Claire. Somebody from the church in Eau Claire just started a homeless shelter and I could get so immersed in that. I could spend so much time in there now and, you know, serve. But now I don't really have that time anymore. And I was processing with God the other day on that. I said, where was this stuff? Where was this church? Where was this homeless shelter and all these things that I so longed for when we moved back here? And I just wanted to be a part of something.
Yeah.
And he answered me.
What did he say?
He said, you would have never started all the things I wanted you to do.
Ah, that's cool.
It was so good. So I wrote it down and it was like, so since that I founded Simple Faith Ministries, Simple Faith Counseling, Simple Faith Lodging, became an author and a writer and a speaker.
That's very impressive.
Themes, watch for the themes in your life because God is up to something. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to feel like you're lost or you don't know what the heck you're doing or did you feel like that sometimes in your teenage years leading up to college?
I feel like I just bopped around to different jobs because
I did too.
I was just like, don't like this, on to the next, don't like this. And my husband, he was like, that's not really good for your resume. Like, you know, you should be concerned. Like, you should like stay at a job for a long time so that the next place that hires you. I was like, no, because that's not what I don't want to be working. Yeah. I want to be raising kids, you know. And luckily that was my situation. I was able to do that. I know not everybody like can do that. And so thankfully I was just aware that like that was going to be a possibility for me someday. Otherwise, if it wouldn't have, I would have found something and committed
You would have
to,
found
you know,
something
but
you
I
loved,
knew,
yeah.
like, when we our like first date, I was like, I'm gonna be a mom. Can you support me?
That's
Basically.
awesome. Because
It was not that direct, but
But he has always been so supportive of you
Yeah.
in that. And I
made it very known, you
Yeah.
know, when Trent and I started to get serious, I was like, that's what I want to do. If I would like to stay at home, you know, and if we can't, I said I will always work if we need to. Like,
Yeah,
if we don't,
of course,
if we
of
can't pay
course.
the bills, I said, I will always work, you know, but I'm just lucky to, I can't remember the question you asked me.
If you answered it, like, did you sometimes also just, you felt like, what am I doing? I don't know what I
yeah.
should do, or
Yeah.
what? And I remember often thinking, like, what do I want to do with my life? And then
I still feel that
yeah.
sometimes,
I'm
know?
sure you do, because now you actually you still have extra time on your hands.
Yeah.
But I think as you keep pursuing the sewing and what are
think
some other things you do?
Well, I just think it'll all come in time. I was just talking to, I do Alpha at First Free. That's like a Bible study course, if anybody doesn't know what that is. And
Oh, are you going to share that story?
I don't know if I should share her story
Okay.
because...
Well, you can make a story out of it.
Yeah.
maybe.
Basically, this leader at my Alpha group told me how she didn't find her calling until she was like 52. And she, you know, I'm like 25. So that just gives me a lot of hope, because like she had thought she had it all figured out. And then at like 36, everything changed. And then she, you know, was depressed for a long time. And then it wasn't until like 52 that her life changed. But she just didn't know what she was doing. She was just, you know, woke up every day, tried her best, but had no real call. She had no idea what she was doing. And it wasn't until 52 when she started leading Alpha that she was like, oh, this is like what I'm supposed to do. But she had no idea and no direction, no nothing until, so I don't think it's like, I felt like, especially like as a teenager and like moving out, you're like, who am I? Like, who do I want to be? What's my calling? It's like, and you're supposed to decide your career and go for college. It's like, there's so much pressure at that time in your life to like decide who you want to be. And like, it literally, you don't have to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
I mean,
way too
find
much pressure.
somehow to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Know who you are, you know, your morals, your values, your faith, like know that. But like, I kind of still don't think I think I'm called to be a mom, but I think I'm also called to more, but I have no idea what it is. But I'm also like not really stressed about it, because I think that God, if he's called you to something, like it'll happen if you're willing.
Absolutely.
And so I know I'm willing to do whatever hope I'm willing to do whatever he's calling me to, but if I don't feel called to something, I'm just going to sit and wait. I'm not going to go start a sewing company right now because I don't feel called to it. But I'm not
right now
just
it's a hobby.
I'm not sitting around doing nothing.
Yes, absolutely.
I think what you should do in these moments when you don't know what you're called to is just, even if it's a job you don't like, it's like do whatever you have to the best of your ability until you feel called to something more. And if you don't feel called to something more at the time, then that's okay. Then like steward what you have, because if you're doing a horrible job with what you have in the moment, God would probably be nicer, but why would he give you something more? Like, why would he give you some? Oh, sorry.
Are we out of time?
No, we're good. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, why would he give you something more to handle if
God would be nicer.
the stuff that you have in the moment you're not even handling that well, you know? So that's kind of my take on it. So yeah, it doesn't mean that you're just sitting around doing nothing. You're just doing a good job with what you have. And then I do think, like, yeah, you can be stressed about it. You don't know what you're called to do. But I just think don't let it, like, eat at you, because, I mean, that lady didn't find her calling till she was 52. And now she's, like, so passionate about it. So I just have faith. Like, it doesn't all have to happen in your 20s or 30s. Like, it doesn't. You know, some people it does. But there's time. So,
well, wasn't Jesus himself
in his
30s when his ministry started?
Yeah.
And Joyce Myers is another one. She's one of my heroes. I think she was 40.
Yeah.
When she started, and she's one of the biggest role models, Bible teachers that I know of, and she was 40. So yeah, just take the pressure off.
Yeah.
Right? Take the pressure off of yourself.
Yeah.
Pay attention to themes in your life. And I want to echo what Luanne was saying about, well, maybe you didn't say it in so much words, but I just want to say, You did say it, but I don't remember how you said it. What's in your hand right now? What's right in front of you? What are you called to be faithful to right now? That's huge. Because if we're not faithful in what we're called to right now, the Bible talks about it. To him who is faithful, much will be given, or however those scriptures goes. You know, there's so much to that. The guy who, the parable of the 3 talents, you know, the one guy buried his talent because he was afraid. And I think that's often why we don't step out and we do the gifts and talents that we have is where, I'm just going to call you out, Luanne. I think you should be singing somewhere. I really think you should be singing somewhere. I remember what season of your life was it where you sang for the prayer team house, the prayer house?
In college, when I was like first married. I was like 20, 21.
So what
22.
made you do that, and what made you, I think, if I remember we went to, on that road trip together, and I remember you came out of there and you were like on a hunt for your calling, remember? Mm-hmm. You were like, and I think it came out of that trip that you started singing then.
No, that was when I was, well, maybe I started singing. I don't remember when I did, but.
Or was that when you became
a youth leader? That's when I became the youth leader. Yeah, but I think I was just at church one day and they were like telling the people, like the serve, like if you feel called to serve, and then they had all their like things open for how you could serve, and I was like, let me just apply finally. I was on the prayer team for a while, and then it just didn't feel like what I was supposed to do anymore. Even though I liked it, it just wasn't like, I didn't find myself looking forward to going. Like, I was a little bit anxious about it, and I don't know why. So I just was like, I don't think I'm supposed to do that. And then it just naturally fizzled out because they like took a break for the summer. They took a break for the summer. I just didn't go back. But I've been thinking about it lately. I might start again, so we'll see. I don't know.
Well, good. That's amazing. You have a huge gift with singing.
Thanks. So in closing, our question, how did you know what you're called to do? Maybe you don't.
Maybe we still don't.
Maybe we still don't. Because I feel like that's kind of me. I'm like never for sure. You know, how can you be 100% sure this is what you're called? You know? And maybe some people are, but for me, I don't know if I ever am like 100% sure.
Right.
But just take good care of what God gave you already.
Absolutely.
And kind of like follow those little nudges. I think that's the best way I can just, it's if you feel nudged to do something, like all of a sudden you're like, oh, I should join that group. Where'd that come from? Follow that. Just do it, you know?
Yeah.
And if nothing comes of it, that's fine. Like I was nudged to like be a youth leader, and I did it for a year, but then I didn't love it. So then I quit, you know? You don't have to like do something and be like, well, now I'm committed for a year. You know, like just follow it.
Try something.
Try it out.
Yes.
And if you you never know, it might be like that lady that became the alpha leader. She was like, what? I don't want to lead alpha.
Yeah.
And then it became her like passion after the fact, you know. So just follow those little nudges and pursue different things. And I think your calling will find you. Actually.
That's so good, Luanne. Exactly what our mentors used to tell us, you know. Don't be afraid to take a step. Just take a step. Test the waters. If it doesn't feel right, you can come back.
Yeah. It's just no pressure.
No pressure. I feel like so often we're afraid to take that first step.
Or we're afraid to miss our calling. Like
yes, we're so afraid we'll miss it that we might actually miss it. You know, just
I don't think if you are like active in prayer or like have a relationship with God and He knows that you're willing and waiting, I don't think He's not going to let you miss it. Yeah.
And what do you think? This is kind of my closing. I think if we keep first things first, and I believe our first and foremost calling is simply to love and worship God.
I think so too.
And I think if that's our foundation, exactly like you said, He'll let us know in due time. Yeah. But maybe it's just not as soon as we think. So until then, be faithful. Yeah. Love your husband. Cook him dinner.
Yeah. There's Sadie Robertson Huff.
Yes.
This is whatever, her Instagram bio is literally love God, love people. And I love that. I do too. Have it on a board in my house now. And I'm like, that's so simple.
It's so simple.
But like, I don't do it that good, you know, like love God, love people. It's literally that, like do that. And That's a good little mantra.
And if you are married, if you have children, that is your first calling.
Yeah.
That is your first calling.
Yeah.
You know, nothing else is going to trump that. So,
Yeah.
so you get the foundation of your life right. And like Luanne said, your calling will find you. So
I think so.
I think that's all I have for this time. Do you have
Yeah.
anything else?
No, I don't think so. Just please leave us some feedback in the comments.
Yes, yes,
Let
please.
us know any more questions. Do you have any episode topics that you'd like
Yeah.
to hear us talk about, or anything you found interesting in this episode would be great. We like to hear your guys' feedback. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in May, right?
Yes.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
right.
crazy. I'll have a
All right.
2-year-old in May. That's insane.
That's going to be
All right.
exciting. All right.
All right. Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Thanks for watching.